What if your home became both your refuge and your prison during an unexplained global disaster, and the only thing you knew for sure was that the rain brought something to your doorstep? I'm Leah, feeling curious today. This is Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
I'm Garrett, and I'm excited for today's topic. Let's dive right in.
We're talking The Last House, a 2026 Netflix film. It's a science fiction thriller that keeps you inside one family's Seattle home while the outside world turns dangerous and very wet. Survival under pressure, mystery by design, and a vibe that is tense and intimate.
Quick story. We had a power outage last month, just a few hours, and I started doing the mental checklist: water, batteries, the camping stove, moving the fridge stuff into a cooler. It was fine, but it got me thinking about how fast normal routines break down, The Last House takes that tiny disruption and stretches it across years, which honestly made me look at my toolbox and the rain barrels in the backyard a little differently.
Basic sketch first. The Last House is directed by Louis Leterrier and written by Matthew Robinson. It premiered on Netflix in August 2026. The leads are Greta Lee as Anne, a pragmatic mom who grows food indoors, and Wagner Moura as Jason, an out-of-work engineer who rigs water systems and defenses. The premise is simple and scary. After a strange storm, a family finds their house sealed by a water-based barrier. Communications go dark, and the rain brings unknown creatures. It's claustrophobic science fiction, focused on tight spaces and pressure cooker emotions rather than big open-world spectacle. Think pressure cooker, not theme park ride. Survival means rationing, gardening in the living room, and keeping quiet during storms when the creatures move.
The house is in suburban Seattle. It turns into both a sanctuary and a prison. The movie is less about hard science explanations and more about the reality of routines, like water reclamation, which is collecting and cleaning water so you can reuse it. They also talk about sinkholes, ground collapses that can swallow structures when the soil underneath gives way. If you've ever camped in your living room during a storm with flashlights and a deck of cards, multiply that by 1,000. It's about staying calm, teaching the kids skills, and figuring out how to live with the unknown pressing at the walls.
Beginning of the story, day 0, Jason is out fishing and sees an unusual storm rolling in. Once the rain starts, doors and windows will not budge, and even the floors and walls become no-go. It's like an invisible water-related shell wraps the house. Phones and internet die, so there's no outside intel, and that immediate cutoff turns everyday life into a closed system overnight.
Moving into daily life, they go straight to rationing food and water. Simple structure becomes the lifeline early on. Electricity and tap water still work at first, which buys them time to plan. Jason starts tinkering, and Anne organizes the kids. It's the classic, let's make a schedule so the day has shape moment. The goal is to keep panic from eating the room.
Ruth, their daughter, spots a creature outside during rainfall and thinks it might be friendly, but the rest of the family is skeptical. Then a neighbor, Susan, shows up screaming that no one is left during a storm she's attacked, and that cements a rule. When it rains, go silent and stay out of sight. Fear becomes protocol.
A fallen chimney cap creates a narrow vertical opening. Ruth checks it, confirming that outside air is out there, but it's too tight to climb through. Still, it becomes their periscope to the world. Meanwhile, the family dog Cassidy gets sick. With no medicine, Jason euthanizes him with a gun and stores the remains in the freezer. It's brutal, but the film treats it as a survival decision rather than shock value.
They later use Cassidy's remains as bait, paired with vegetables Anne grows, to trap small animals. That's a hard line to cross emotionally. Then the power grid fails and refrigeration and lights go away. At that point, it's hand tools, sunlight, and careful hygiene. The beginning closes with a house that looks the same on the outside, but inside it's now a plan under stress.
Middle stretch, their systems mature. Anne's indoor garden expands, creeping through the living room floor because calories have to come from somewhere. Jason builds a house-wide water setup, so the daily routine is collect, filter, reuse. These are closed loops. If one piece fails, the whole thing suffers. I loved the practical details there. like you can almost hear the drip lines and valves.
Ruth keeps challenging the default fear response. She insists the creatures might not be pure predators. During a later intrusion, a tentacled being oozing seawater gets into the house. It does not find the family, but the garden and water get contaminated. Whether it's salt or toxin is unclear, but the result is ruinous. That pushes Ruth toward a theory that these beings are oceanic and reclaiming the planet.
We see how risky the trapping strategy is, too. Ruth gets bitten by a ferret while helping with a trap, and the infection escalates. Now it's a medical crisis in a sealed box. Jason notices ground shifting and cracks. The water barrier seems to move as the house sinks. The idea of a sinkhole becomes real, not just theoretical.
Anne decides to get antibiotics. She moves through sewage pipes, the city's hidden tunnels for wastewater, to reach the neighboring home of Max Richardson, a dentist. She finds what she needs, encounters a creature on the way back, and Jason reseals the opening behind her. Those pipes are both lifeline and liability. The infrastructure cuts both ways.
They prep for a direct fight. Improvised weapons, traps, all the household hardware transformed. What starts as a waiting game becomes active defense planning because the house itself is changing under them.
Endgame, a storm forces water up through the plumbing and the interior floods, so they retreat vertically into the attic. One creature gets trapped inside. Ruth pleads for mercy, and Jason holds back from killing it. That moral pivot is the hinge of the whole film.
The creature seems to understand. It opens the front door and signals others. The once impenetrable barrier is suddenly not the obstacle. Then timing strikes. The soaked ground gives way and the house collapses into a sinkhole. Years of modifications disappear in seconds.
After the rain stops, the world widens. Seattle is mostly underwater, and they salvage a boat to navigate a drowned city. That reframes the whole ordeal as part of a planetary flood rather than just their block. They find other survivors, which puts a pulse of hope into a bleak landscape.
Here's the big unresolved question. The film never explains the cause of the disaster. The water barrier, the rain-active creatures, the global-scale flooding. We don't get a scientist's speech or a satellite map, and some critics were split on that choice. The Hollywood Reporter praised the tension but said momentum dips once it shifts to pure survival. Brian Tellerico at RogerEbert.com called it frustrating, and NME agreed about payoff issues. I actually like the mystery. It keeps the family's viewpoint honest, because in real crises, you rarely get a tidy answer card.
I go back and forth. The ambiguity feels realistic, totally, but I felt the door opening moment begged for just a hint more context. Not a lecture, just a clue. Like, are we seeing communication or mimicry? And if the disaster is oceanic, is it ecological backlash or something else? For me, a little connective tissue would have deepened the emotional payoff. Empire, the UK film magazine, put it nicely by saying, "Arthur C. Clarke, this ain't." Clarke was a hard science fiction writer known for scientific rigor. The movie chooses feeling over physics. I respect that, but part of me was like, give me one breadcrumb more.
Why do you think the lack of explanation pulls you out instead of pulling you in? Is it because the film sets up such specific mechanics, like the barrier and the plumbing flood, that you want the rulebook clarified?
Yeah, that's it. The film is so tactile with process, gardening, water reclamation, quiet drills during storms, that when the final choice is mercy, I wanted the world logic to meet the character logic halfway. For me, that would have been one crumb, not a lecture. Totally get the artistic choice to favor mood, but I kept wanting that tiny explanatory thread to tie the emotional moment down.
Fair. For me, the unanswered pieces aim the spotlight at Ruth's interpretation. Her empathy becomes strategy, not just sentiment. In that frame, the why is less important than how we learn to live with this. Still, I totally get the itch for a clearer signal.
Quick pop culture touch. The marketing stunt was wild and on theme. A robe-clad performer lived inside a furnished billboard in Los Angeles at sunset in Selma, waving to cars, scanning with binoculars, writing on a whiteboard. It mirrored the film's confinement and silent communication. Also, production note, even though the story is set in Seattle, principal filming happened at Shepperton Studios in England, a big controlled stage space perfect for water-heavy, contained sets. Very practical choice.
Counterfactual time. What if Jason had killed the trapped creature? My gut says the family stays sealed, the storm passes, and then the house keeps sinking until the collapse. Without that mercy moment, there's no door opening and no signal to other creatures. The odds of escaping before the sinkhole feel pretty slim.
And psychologically, that changes the kids. Ruth's worldview gets crushed, and Graham doubles down on pure defense. We've seen how fragile their routines are. One more moral wound like that could break the cohesion. It's not just about the physical barrier, it's whether they can still coordinate under stress without turning on each other.
Could shifting ground have opened another exit later anyway? Maybe, but they would not know when, and water pressure inside the pipes already forced them upward. Even if a crack appears, timing matters. If the collapse hits first, there's no plan B. That's why the mercy choice reads as both ethical and tactical. It creates a window at the exact moment they need one.
Which loops us back to the larger theme. Interpretation is a survival tool. Ruth's empathy reframes an enemy into a negotiator. Whether that's true intelligence or conditioned behavior, we don't know, but the film stakes the family's future on acting as if cooperation is possible. That's a bold bet in a world without answers.
So that's The Last House: claustrophobic survival, rain, and creatures, and a final act that trades certainty for compassion. Stay curious, keep your tools handy, and maybe label your water jugs.
And remember, sometimes the smallest decision, like choosing mercy, is the key that opens the door. That's the heartbeat of it. Until next time.